Ladies, gentlemen, geeks of all ages, you are now entering BJ Shea's Geek Nation. Welcome.
Hey guys, this is Joe, the Prodigy from BJ Shea's Geek Nation, here with another sealed deck practice. In honor of Khans of Tarkir being released last weekend, I'm going to try to help you guys in building the best sealed deck that we can. So Khans is a 3-color set, and normally I wouldn't pull the rares out first, but because there's so many colors, I like to see what our options are as far as big cards that we want to play. So we have Dragon Style Twins, which is actually going to be awesome because it's only red, so we're going to have a little bit more leeway as far as what decks that card can go in. Sultai Ascendancy, great card if you can cast it, but again 3 colors, so it might be harder. Rattleclaw Mystic's perfect because it's a morph and it can be played in any deck. Probably going to go in anything we play. So we got a Mythic Rare. It's Seeing the Unwritten. Probably a little expensive at 6. It only gives you 1 guy, although you might be able to activate the Ferocious. Still, top 8 cards, 2 random creatures. Might not be the best. And there we have the big hitter, Savage Knuckleblade. Probably one of my favorite cards out of the set. Easily castable off our Rattleclaw Mystic. Probably, hopefully, going to be in our deck. And, one of the best cards in the set, in my opinion, Sarkhan the Dragon Speaker. So it looks like we're going to have a pretty good pool here. So I'm going to start off by sorting these into color and then just multicolor since, well, there are a lot of them. So we've sorted all of our cards out into colors, and you can kind of start to get a feel of what your packs kind of give you in terms of the most commons and uncommons in which color. So you can see we have a lot of green, a little bit of black, a little bit of red. But the cool thing about Khans is we have a ton of lands, as you can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lands that add more than 1 color of mana. So you have your options of what you want to build. Now I'm going to go straight for the multicolor to see where I think our most powerful cards are going to be. So you can see here we have a good morph creature in Temur, as well as the Charm and Savage Knuckleblade. We have 2 of what I consider the best morph in the set to be, which is the 4/4 lifelink. At common, you can debate it, but I mean, honestly, I think the guide just does everything you want it to do. It's quick, it's efficient, it gets you lifelink, and it's a morph. You can play it in any deck. So, although it is in the opposite colors of Temur, so we might not be able to play it, I still want to keep my options open and think about it at least. We don't have a whole lot of other things. We have the Abomination, which is obviously very good morph creature, also cycles. And we also have the Soothslayer, which is fantastic. Cycles, it's a 2/5, gets you a card you're probably going to want. So we have a pretty high power level on our multicolor cards, so now we have to decide what our actual pool is going to end up. You can see that we have a pretty good amount of red playables, although there are some 2/2s that have haste that are only going to be really good in an aggro deck. Black has not a whole lot of great cards, neither does blue. Green definitely looks like it's going to be a playable color for us. We're probably going to be in green. So unless we want to splash like our Mardu Charm or these guys just off of white and black, which might be difficult, we're probably going to stick to green as a base. Or maybe even red, depending on, Sarkhan's Dragon Speaker is a mythic rare and it's very good. The first thing I'm going to do is cut blue. I really don't feel like blue is on the same power level as far as just to be a color we want to play. We might be able to splash for something like the Savage Knuckleblade, but we're not going to be able to just play blue, I don't think. So we've eliminated blue, but luckily we have 4 on-color tap lands that are going to provide the mana we need for the rest of the colors we have. And if we want to splash Savage Knuckleblade or Temur Charm, or even our morph creature, we have 4 other lands that add blue that might be in one of the colors we end up playing. So the cool thing about these morph creatures is that they're so powerful that even a 2/2 for 3 is not going to be bad on its own. And since we have so much mana fixing, I'm going to play these off-color morph creatures in the hopes that when we draw our lands that add random colors of mana like blue or white, that I will be able to flip them over. We also have a Rattleclaw Mystic in our pool, so I'm going to get greedy and play the Savage Knuckleblade just because it's pretty insane when you flip that guy over on turn, or flip the Mystic over on turn 4 and then play it in a Knuckleblade, give it haste and attack. So let's see how this looks up. So after laying out the deck, it seems we have a lot of 3-drops, which I think you're going to have because of all the morphs, but they also double in different spots depending on if you can cast them normally. For instance, we might be able to cast one of these later on if we have one of these at 5. So I'm going to count like maybe one of these as a later drop. We don't have a lot of tricks, and getting through morphs on turn 4 can be really important, especially if they're going to trade. So I think I'm going to add the boon to the deck, because 1, it keeps the counters on, and 2, it is a good combat trick if you have dudes and the board stales out a little bit. Stalls. Because our deck's a little slow, we don't have a lot of spells, I think we can afford to play a draw spell in black. 2 mana, draw 2, also puts cards in our yard for our 3 delve cards. It's kind of exactly what we want to do if we're already ahead on board, or if at 3 mana we play a morph and the board's just kind of, you know, just standing there stalling out a little bit. So we're going to want to draw some cards, get us to our mana. Since we have so many powerful spells, we really just want to be able to get to 5, since all our morphs cost 5 or unmorph for 5. I'm going to cut the Skull Hunter. Normally a good card in a semi-aggressive deck, even in a normal deck, except we're kind of splashing black, so it's not going to do what we want. It might not come down on turn 2. We have sideboard options. We have a lot of aggressive cards in this pool if we want to end up playing them. For instance, a 2/2 haste for 2. We have 2 of those, and we have 2 charms that also are aggressive and can get rid of creatures or counter them. But I tend to like to play more control decks when you have 7 tap lands and a bunch of good creatures. So right now we're at 24 cards. I'd like to get it down to 23, even maybe 22 in this format, but if you're going to be on the draw a lot of the times, if that's what you decide you want to do, you can go to 17 lands. I personally would like 18. We have a lot of morphs that cost 6 or need to unmorph for 5, so we really want to get to 5 or 6 lands every game. And with cards like Sarkon and Savage Knuckleblade, we have a power level high enough where we can avoid the first couple turns and really just slam some bombs later on. As for a mana base, it's going to be pretty easy for us, I think. I'm going to cut all the multicolor cards that we don't really care about unmorphing, because a morph is good on its own, so I don't want to commit a whole lot of mana to them if I don't have to. Kind of see we have a red-green here deck with some black cards later on, and then a great, I almost consider this guy a removal spell in the format. He's a 1/1 Death Touch that unmorphs too. I mean, it's just perfect. I don't need to play any islands for the Savage Knuckleblade, since we have 3 lands that add blue already. So that leaves us with a Jund deck to build for our mana base. Now I already have 7 lands here, so I can only play 10, so I want to make sure that I have enough mana sources. Luckily we have 2 black-green lands and a red-green land, so we're going to be pretty good on our mana, I believe, since we only have to play maybe 1 or 2 swamps. So the rest of them are going to be forests or mountains. So this is probably the final list I would go with. You might be wondering why I'm playing Leaping Master and this Highland game. There are going to be aggro decks out there in the format with prowess or other cards that are very aggressive that you're going to want just a generic dude to block for a while. Normally, if you're playing like a weaker deck, maybe you go leaning towards the aggro strategy instead, or maybe you decide that you just have to be greedy, so you play 5 colors. But in this deck, we have 3 real bombs. I mean, we have Sarkon, we have the Dragon-style twins, and we have Savage Knuckleblade. So we have a pretty good chance of beating our opponent's cards one-on-one. So what I want to do is I want to live till hopefully around turn 4 or 5, and then just play a bomb after bomb and beat them. That's why I really like splashing for the guys that have lifelink, because they get you back in a lot of games that you might not be able to normally. There are a lot of ways to build a deck. Could have gone aggressive. Let me know what you think. BJSheaGeekNation.com.